I thought when I would grow up that bullying would stop,
Huh.
basically, but just goes to show just from that story how fucking wrong I am. Because usually it's teenagers and stuff that do that kind of thing, but I've had instances happen where it's in front of a massive amount of people. Um, there was this one time when I was in the shops to do some grocery shopping. I was looking at some like ice cream or whatever the fuck to take home as a treat for me and my mum.
Mm.
Excuse me. And I was listening to music because I've always got music with me because it helps me with isolating myself and stopping people talking to me. Because for some reason, people always want to talk to me when I'm standing in line somewhere. They always start talking to me.
Mm.
But either I got one of those faces, or so I purposely have music on to stop that happening, so I can basically ignore them.
Mm.
But there was this break when my MP3 player was skipping to the next song, and I hear this kid yelling like, "Look at that lady! She's so fat!" Like in the middle of the aisle of the store. So I
Mm.
look over and I see that she's pointing at me. So I I got instantly super pissed off. Like
Uh,
it,
Understandable, I think.
I mean, it was in the middle of the store. The aisle was packed with people, and everyone was staring at me suddenly. So
Mm.
yeah, it's humiliating and angering as hell. And she was with her parents. Do you know what the parents did? They just kind of made
Agreed.
this smiling gesture, like, "Oh, it's a kid. What are you gonna do?"
Mm.
And that was
Yeah,
the
so
worst thing,
the whole
basically.
point is that when a kid does that, you say to them, "Hey, you can't do that."
Yeah, but the parents didn't do that. So I was so pissed off, and normally I just let things like that slide. But because of the parents just not doing anything and not telling the girl to, like, you can't say something like that, you can't do that, it's not nice, or whatever the hell they say to kids these days.
Mm.
I
These
walked up
days.
to the little girl and I just started yelling at her, like, do you think that's normal? Do you think that's funny? Are you a fucking bully? Like, I started swearing at her, I didn't care at that point. And the parents just got pissed off at me, like, she's a kid, what the fuck are you doing? Like, in that current thing where parents are like, yeah, all children are little angels. That's the current mentality for
Yeah.
parents, that's basically. So I told the parents, like, didn't you hear what your daughter just yelled? Yeah, we heard. So what? Well, aren't you gonna fucking do something about it? Well, why should we do anything about it? It's a kid. So I just started yelling at the dad. It was the dad speaking at that point. I started yelling at him like, your daughter thinks it's a good idea to humiliate someone in public. Someone who might be, I don't know, suicidal. Do you
Mm.
realize this could trigger someone committing suicide? Like, I wasn't suicidal at that point. Um, but I just, you know, kind of made it more of a drama than it actually was. Just
Mm.
try and teach these people a lesson
Yeah, you're proving a point.
and proving a point, yeah. So I went like, what if I was suicidal? What if this pushed me off the edge? What if this caused me to commit suicide? Aren't you gonna say something to your fucking kid? No, why should we say something? So I went like, okay, fine. If you're not gonna say anything to your kid, I fucking will. So I just basically yelled at that kid like, you're gonna be fucking lucky if the news doesn't say that someone committed suicide in this town. Because in my town, that's like a very rare thing. If something like that happens, it's big news. Like, oh, this
Yeah.
person committed suicide. This is a very fucking boring town. So I just basically yelled at the kid, so you're gonna be fucking lucky if there's not gonna be a suicide in the news tonight. And that kid started crying.
Mm.
And the parents were like, are you fucking mental? So I told them,
Yes.
like, if you're not gonna punish your daughter, I fucking will. There we go. So, yeah, that kind of thing pissed me off like hell. Like,
I came up with. I've got 3 points that came up during all of that. I'll
okay,
forget 2 of them by the time I get through the first one. Right. Um. So I have this thing on being fat, which is that in most cases it's their fault. I Let me finish before you jump.
I wasn't gonna say anything. I was gonna let you finish.
In most cases, it's the perpetrator, as in the fat person's fault that
Mhm.
they are. But I understand how easy it is to get to that point, because especially when you're. So I'm quite lucky in that I have a high metabolism, so I can get away with being absolutely shit, and go to the gym like once or like 3 times a week, twice a week, and be thin.
Yeah.
I know that in about 4 years from now I'll be 28, and my metabolism either would have slowed down or sodded off entirely,
Yeah.
and it's going to be a lot harder to do. I'm going to have to watch my eating. I'm going to have to watch what food I put in a lot more closely, and my exercise schedule a lot more routinely.
Yeah.
So I understand it's easy to get chubby,
Mhm.
and I've seen pictures of you. I wouldn't say you're fat. When I say fat, I mean like obese, morbidly obese level, as opposed to
You
you know,
mean 600 pound life? Obese.
like 300 or more pounds is what I would define as fat. You know, kind of wrestler levels of sponge going on. Um, when you're 250 and below, I would count you as between chubby and chunky, which aren't necessarily bad states to be in. You can be muscular chunky and muscular
True.
chubby, like my ex girlfriend was. Like, she wasn't 250 pounds, but you get my point.
Yeah.
So like I feel like there's a fault on that fat person, that they can't. You can't get angry at everyone for commenting on the fact that you're overweight, because you are. You
True.
you have to change that yourself. Number two, uh, you are completely in the right in telling the child off. But there's a sort of there's an underlying fear there that comes up, in that people can't make fun. In that people can't say things in case it makes someone commit suicide. Like that's a stupid philosophy to live by.
Yeah.
It's because in order to have conversation, in order to push ideas, you have to risk offending someone. So if I were to say to a random overweight woman who's suicidal, and her trigger is the gym, hey, have you tried going to the gym? And then she kills herself later that night. I should not be held responsible for the fact that she's committed suicide.
No, true. No, that's
Um,
no, go on. I'll comment on later.
and there is a third point, but I've forgotten it, which I knew I would. So carry on.
Well, the thing is, it wasn't necessarily the fact that this kid's that I wanted to instill fear in the kid. It was more so the fact that it was more so the fact that teach her a lesson. It just can't say random shit for no reason. But
No,
the
that's the
main
thing.
the main
Like,
trigger for that was basically I expected the parents to be like, okay, she made a mistake. Let's, she needs to be told off. She needs to be told that it doesn't work like that. You can't do something like that.
there's consequences to saying things
Yeah,
like
there's
that,
consequences
basically.
to your actions, but they neglected to do it. That was the main point of this.
That's why you're in the right for doing it.
Yeah,
And just
like if they had done so, if they had gone, yeah, you can't say something like that. Why would you say something like that? Apologize to the lady. If they'd done that, then I wouldn't have made a problem of it. But because they neglected to tell her, like, you can't say that, that's why I got pissed off. That's why I made a bigger drama than actually necessary. Like, if they had told the kid off, I would have been like, okay, thank you for your apology. Please don't do it again. Things are fine. But because they didn't do it, I made a drama of it. That's the main reason why I did it.
in popular culture as well, and in media and whatever, like, fatness is made fun of, as is gayness and straightness. Like, everything's made fun of.
Yeah.
And when you're young as her, you see that on TV. You see someone get made fun of for being fat on TV in like an actual comedic way, and you're like, oh, then it's okay to do
Yeah.
that with real people. And it's like, well, no, because and you have to explain like, unless you explain to the child, yeah, you can do that, but with your friends or something like, because these what's his name? These comedians that are on TV who are fat and they're in these TV shows and they get made fun of for their weight for whatever reason.
Yeah.
They've signed up to it and they've gone, yep, you can make jokes about my weight. I'm comfortable with it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I make fun of my dad's weight because he's my dad. He understands, like, it's a joke. He gets it. I can't go to fucking Jane Bloggs over there on the other side of the road who's walking past with the earth trembling around her and make fun of her because that's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can say you can say something in private about Jane Bloggs making the earth shake across the road, but you can't go up to her and say that there's something wrong there. I don't think it should be illegal to mind, but
No, I don't think it should be illegal. But
social consequence.
oh God, excuse me. But yeah, there are consequences, and that's why I did it to show, like, yeah, you could say something to the wrong person. But like, I was going to say something. But like, there are instances in which it happens. Like, I've had it happen to me. I was going to my friend's place, and I had to go past a playground. And because I'd taken the bus, because they couldn't pick me up, his parents, whatever, so I took the bus. I had to walk past this playground, and there was this little kid who, she was about 4 years old, I think, who came up to me, and she looked at me with wide eyes, looked at my stomach, and went like, "Do you have a baby in your belly?" And I just started laughing as hell, because.
Yeah.
But then, 2 seconds later, apparently the mum saw her looking at my stomach because the mum was out in the front yard. Because the playground was right by their house, so she was keeping an eye on her kid. And I saw her walking over, and I saw that the mum was pregnant. So, naturally, this kid thought, oh, this lady has a big tummy. Mum has a big tummy. She must be pregnant.
Like that's such an innocent child question as well, isn't it? Compared to
but that was the reason why I was like, I couldn't do anything other than laugh. And the mum, bless her heart, she immediately went like, "I'm so sorry about this. I'm so sorry she said that." So I explained to her like, "No, this is fine. I don't really mind because I can see that your child is." Making the connection, like, you've got a bigger belly because you're pregnant, pardon the expression. I've got a big belly, but for me it's for a different reason. So I can see her making the connection. Like,
but for me it's because I like chocolate fingers.
Yeah. No, not chocolate fingers. Because we don't have those here. But,
oh, don't you?
Like, I can see making the connection, like, mum's got a big belly, this lady's got a big belly. She must be having a baby in her belly as well. So I couldn't get angry because of that, because at that point it was just so funny to me to see that connection being made. Like the other week there was another instance. Like, for some reason people love doing this kind of thing. There was this kid who saw me going up to her front door to put a letter in the letterbox.
Right, hang on, like how impolite are children in Holland?
Very fucking impolite.
I've not heard. I've got a couple of fat friends in my like active real life. I've never heard any of them ever talk about children being this impolite and talkative to them.
Well, it's. Let me finish.
Maybe it's just a culture thing. Like here, we just do not talk to strangers under any circumstances.
Let me finish this story first, and I'll explain. So, this kid sees me going up to her letterbox, and I put a letter in, and I turn around, and she's standing with her arms wide. You can't get past. And I went like, okay, come on, move it, I gotta work. And I walk past her and I hear her saying like, you've got a fat bum. So I turned around and I went like, excuse me? Like this kid immediately got wide-eyed at me.
Deer in the headlights.
Yeah, deer in the headlights. I was so pissed off at that point. I just went, don't fucking talk to me ever again. And I just walked off. Like, not the smartest thing I could have done. But I was so pissed off I didn't know what to say for a second. But the thing is, in my city, everyone is very severely Christian. Like, this is the height of Christianity. Like, this is very, very fucking Christian. And I'm fine with religion. I full disclosure, I'm fine with any kind of religion. You can be Buddhist, you can be Christian, you can be Catholic, you can be whatever the fuck you want. I don't care. Just don't bother me with it. Like, don't try and convert me. You know? But my town is so severely Christian. Like, if a kid gets hit by a car, the first thing that the parents will say, oh, it's the will of God. That's how bad they are here. But that's also a part of the mentality here. Like, people don't teach their kids how to behave or how to not talk to strangers because they think it's the will of God. Does that make sense?
That's so stupid, though.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know any. Like, I know quite a few Christians at this point since converting, and I don't know any like that.
Yeah, but
like all the ones around here are intelligent people.
But this town is so severely Christian. Like, you know how in big cities, in London, say, on Sundays there's shops open, like Waterstones or whatever the heck.
Yeah.
Here in this town, that's not allowed because of the Christianity thing. Here, you're not allowed to have a shop open. Like when we got a Subway in town, it's in the middle of the city. People were offended that it was going to be open on a Sunday.
We're talking to be offended. I want a sandwich.
Well, I refuse to eat at Subway because it's absolute shit.
I think the last time I had something there was like 2 years ago, but don't worry about that. My point is that just be offended. What's it gonna do to me? It shouldn't affect me if you're offended. Let me have a sandwich.
Yeah, but like it's so bad over here because I used to volunteer for the local museum. See, I'm an old person. I used to volunteer, and I used to be in the temporary exhibits committee. And at one point there was this question about having a trial to be open on Sunday. So I instantly went like, yeah, we need to do that. And there was a talk of putting the proposal through to the board members or whatever the fuck. But there was this one person who immediately went like, no, we can't do that. The politicians in this town won't like it. So I kind of started an argument with him because, you know, I was raised a Roman Catholic. The majority of the religion in this town is Christianity. Like it's 60-40, 60% being of Christianity. So I started this argument with him, like, okay, I respect that you're Christian, I respect your religion, fine. But you're basically saying that because 60% of this town is Christian, what does the other 40% need to do? Like, you say that it can't happen, but what about the rest of us? Like, are we meant to drop dead, basically? Crude terms, I know, but...
Preferably.
Fuck you. So I just started this argument with him because, you know, Christianity is the main thing. We
Hmm.
can't do anything here because the town is Christian. Like, yeah, but this religion isn't the only one in town. There's more than Christianity in town. What is the rest of us gonna do?
Hmm.
So I said, like, yeah, you're talking about politics and stuff, but it's not a question right now of whether the city council will agree to this. It's a question of are we going to put a proposal through to the board members or not? That's what we need to vote on. And if you want to vote no, fine, but I'm going to vote yes.
Hmm.
So there was this whole massive argument with this guy, and he just couldn't understand my point.
Yeah,
So,
people like that you can't argue with.
no, true, but me being me, I will argue.
Oh, me too, but only because I like watching their brain.
Yeah. So yeah, but I don't know. It's, this is a very. I wouldn't want to move from this town because you know it's my hometown, but it's very frustrating to live here sometimes.
I don't. Maybe it might be a foreign country culture thing. That's not a thing here. We're not that stupid. Like we. Maybe it's because this country's slowly falling to the dogs and isn't really Christian anymore. I don't know, but we've never really been. At least in my experience, we've never really been much on super pushy, follow my faith or else ness in this country. We've always been a lot more kind of laissez-faire about it. And by always, I mean like in the past 10, 20 years or so,
Yeah,
we've, I can't think of any, because I mean, David Cameron passed a whole like, you can be gay law and marry thing, in spite of the fact that he's in the party that would normally, what's the opposite of support? Oppose
yeah,
gay marriage. You know, despite that, he put it forward and got it through and whatever. It's this country doesn't really operate itself on religion, which is probably a good thing to be honest, because religion's bad for you. Roman Catholicism, especially in my opinion, I think there's something so weird about Catholicism. I don't get it at all. And I know it's basically what I am, but earlier. But it's just, I don't understand. They make fun of Mormons, right?
yeah,
And so do I, trust me, for believing that one man called Elder something, McNamara, why not, right? New Vegas, is the sole, has a voice directly to God, a line directly to God. They make fun of the Mormons for genuinely believing that.
yeah,
But they also believe the same thing about Pope Francis or Pope John or whoever it is at the moment. And it's like, that's wrong. We all have that line to God. Like, it's the whole point is that we have that relationship with Jesus to God. Are you stupid? And the semi-worshipping of saints and the dogma of everything as well. Like, the religion is very traditionalist.
yeah,
Do things a certain way without changing it ever. I mean, this is a church that systematically kept the working class poor, which was about 90% of the population, in complete ignorance to what they were even following, because they refused to adhere to English language in the Bible. They made them use Latin
yeah,
as the way to translate the Bible from, you know, fucking the year 0 to relatively recently in the late medieval ages. You know, it was only in
yeah,
the 1800s, I think, or the 1600s, where an English version was made. And it's like, so you can understand why so many people were ignorant of how God preached, or Jesus preached, who is God, but don't lie, who preached peace and not war,
mhm,
and yet would do things like the Crusades and all that sort of thing.
yeah,
That's the church that did it. It's the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is just corrupt and doomed to fail.
true,
And yet, and when people come, like you, come from a Catholic background, they tend to end up leaving the church and never go back to Christianity because they think that's the only thing Christianity is. And I don't blame them. If I thought that was all Christianity was, I'd leave it too. But yeah, it seems like that's what your country's caught in the grips of. It's caught in the grips of Catholicism as opposed to Christianity, which is what mine is.
Well, the thing is, your country only recently approved of gay marriage. But
in 2008, I think.
Yeah, but my country, I don't know exactly when, but I do know that my country was one of the first countries in the world to legalize.
Because you got a liberal country.
Yeah.
We're fairly centrist, I think.
Me and politics, I don't know the difference, but basically, we were one of the first countries to legalize gay marriage, and honestly, I'm glad that we did, because going back to the religion thing, I honestly don't think that God would condemn homosexuality. I honestly do not believe that he will do that. Purely because of the reason, if we go by the God creates everything theory, then why would he have created homosexuality?
He didn't. He didn't. It's a weird offshoot. You think about how humans are, right?
Yeah.
And for the record, I'm a supporter of gay marriage and gay rights and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't care what anyone says, right? Unless scientific evidence comes out that says, yes, you are born this, which it hasn't, and it says almost the opposite. You aren't born gay. It's a weird amalgamation of your genetics, your environment that you were raised in, and your formative years, and what influences them. It's a very strange amalgamation of them, and they don't really know, last time I checked, what is the most...
That's why you're wrong. I don't remember what it was, but I saw I think it was presented by John Barrowman, who is like the biggest gay ever, and I love him.
Yeah, I got you.
I think it was a program presented by John Barrowman, who wanted to answer the question, like, are you born gay or not? And if I remember rightly, he did find out that you are born gay. I mean, don't quote me on it per se, but I believe that he found out through this program that you are born the way you are. So you are born gay, you are born straight, you are born bisexual.
No, it's I've read. I'm not going to take John Barrowman's word for it because he's gay and therefore biased towards it. And he was in a really shitty Doctor Who spin-off as well.
Well, I didn't think it was that shitty, but go on.
Oh, it was. It was awful. Anyway, I refer you to the Cyberwoman episode.
I will agree that was kind of a shit episode, but I do love the background that they gave for Yamto.
You know what the problem is? The person that ran that show is now running Doctor Who. It's going to be shit. Anyway, right? I read this like 2 years ago or something, and I don't think it's changed since because I keep relatively up to date with it. I remember, I'll look it up in a second, but I remember it being determined by a lot of genetic and biological stuff. Like there is biological stuff that goes into it, but it would only make up more than 50% of it. It would be like 60-70. Yeah, I think. But it's also a weird interplay, a complex interplay. If I remember the phrasing, between nature and nurture.
True.
Like it's the two playing into each other. It's not just because.
I'm not saying that as well because
no, I'm not saying you are, but gays will, and they're evil. Don't trust them. They'll say, "Oh yeah, you are born this way, and you can't you're born this way, and like, no, that's bollocks. You're not. You're sort of born that way, but there's like a. So my original point, right, is that God didn't make us like that. He just didn't. I'm sorry, but he didn't. It's a weird thing that happened later on. So there's this thing in the Bible called the fall, right? And I know I'm getting biblical, but try and stop me.
No, it's fine.
And when Adam and Eve, and it's a story and it's not real, but it's a story that's emblematic. It's a microcosm of the human existence, right?
Yeah.
When we took the apple, we began in the fall. And whereas God had a clear, defined path for us, even though he knew we wouldn't take it, as we diverge from the path, we get further and further from God's light, right? From the actual path. And as we diverge further and further, weirder things happen. This is how like cancer and all those sort of things like come out. Like cancer isn't a design. If you look in the Garden of Eden, cancer is not a design of God. It's just a weird malformation that's happened because we're so far away from God's path at this point. Right?
Yeah.
So following that fact, that'll really annoy someone. The gayness thing is another one. Now, when the Bible first, I might be wrong here actually, but when it first mentions it in my head, it's talking about Sodom and Gomorrah.
True. Yeah, I know that story as well.
Yeah, so
Basically,
I'm not going to explain. I'm not going to explain the story because it's boring, right? But basically, they're sodomizing men in that time, in the Greek or Roman culture of the time, would sodomize, bumfuck men as a sign of dominance.
Yeah.
And that's all it was. It wasn't the real word the Bible uses is arsen or ken, which doesn't mean homosexuality. Homosexuality implies there was love behind it and that they wanted to do it and that the men who were receiving it wanted it also.
It was basically a lust versus love kind of thing, you mean?
Yeah, it was either lust or psychological abuse, pick one. And it's, domination of another man is to fuck them. Like, that's how it was.
True.
And that's what it means when it talks about homosexuality there. When Paul talks about homosexuality in the New Testament, he never once talks about it in the way in which we talk about it. He talks about it again, if I remember correctly, in that sort of primal dominance way as opposed to the love way. It never deals with the intent. So because of that, I can argue that we gay people or bisexual people, when they go to sleep with other men, it's not for dominance, it's for love, and love is like the fundamental thing in the Bible.
Yeah.
What it does say is marriage should be between a man and a woman.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing it definitively says about marriage between two humans.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I should disagree with gay marriage, but I don't, because I believe in personal liberty. And if you're a Christian and you see that in the Bible and you can somehow you can argue in your head that it's okay to do, then go for it. But I don't think I could argue it myself. But because I believe in personal liberty and freedom, you should be allowed to do it, which is why I'm pro gay marriage, even though I may not do it myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's gayness 101.
Well, I mean, I it's been a very fucking long time since I've read the Bible, I will admit. I remember having a children's version of the Bible, but I don't remember Sodom and Gomorrah, because that would have been too graphic for a kid.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know if it's a story in the Roman Catholic Bible.
Well, it would be, because it's the same thing.
Sorry. I don't remember the Bible well enough to judge that, but I don't know. I would say, arguably, it would have been a construct by God, considering He created love, I would say.
Mm.
So arguably, it could be something of God's design. We just decided to interpret it in a different way.
No, he very clearly made it so that men would love women. It's evident by the story of Adam and Eve, and it's evident by the millions of stories after that, and it's evident by marriages between a man and a woman. It's quite obvious that it wasn't an intended outcome, I think. But it is something that ended up happening.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think the thing that ended up happening is a sin, but it is proof that we are so far from God's light that we've come to this point.
Okay.
I don't because I can't see homosexuality as a sin because it's not how the Bible defines it. It's different to that. It's a loving relationship as opposed to a domination fetish of some kind.
Now that's my reasoning as well.
So I can't see it as a sin, but I don't see it as something that God intended.
Fair enough. For me, it's mostly I don't see it as a sin because I believe, regardless of whether God intended this to happen or not, regardless of that fact, homosexuality nowadays is not based, like you said, on the dominance of things. Okay, one of them will bum fuck the other. That's something just the way it works. But it's a relationship based on love, and I don't think that love is a bad thing. Regardless of what the couples are, whether it's man and woman, or woman and woman, or man and man, or whatever the fuck, I don't see it as a bad thing, and I don't think that God would. Personally, I don't think that God would see it as a bad thing either. It's not actually intended, but I don't think that He would see it as a bad thing. Basically,
no, but He would almost certainly correct the problem when a rapture happens.
Well, if it happens,
It will.
Well, maybe not in our lifetime then.
Probably not, but.
But I don't know. It's a tricky subject, religion. Usually, one of my rules is never discuss religion or politics with friends.
That's gay. I always discuss it. I love it.
It frustrates me, religion and politics and stuff.
I get nah. I love it. I love doing it. I especially with people who aren't me, because I can just
You can be a little shit.
I can be a little bit I can be a little shit, but two, it's productive, I think, to hear that other side. If you just have an opinion, and never, just every other, most lefties do in this country, and just never hear another one, and just exist in this mediocre shell of half-formed opinions, then you're shit, and leave my planet, please.
Fuck off.
But if you're and I'm one of those people that as soon as I hear a different point of view, so I fully support NHS, right?
The free healthcare thing.
Yeah, I fully support free healthcare. As soon as I hear that there was a counter argument to it, though, I bounded into that subject and was like, yes, give me a good counter argument. I want it. I want to hate it. It's so weird. And it's not really conducive to being consistent in your opinions, I'll admit. I kind of flip-flop on things a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't care. I'd rather flip-flop on things and end up with a well-rounded, respectable opinion than just pick a side and stay there no matter what.
Well, the thing is, my town is incredibly Christian, so my co-workers are as well. And we were having a discussion at our local depot where our mail gets delivered and we can pick it up. And we were having this discussion about having shops open on Sunday. And my opinion, well, okay, 60% of the town is Christian, but what about the rest of us? So yeah, go for it, let's do this. But we got into this discussion, me and one of my co-workers, and she's Christian. but we're like very open and very comfortable in discussing things. Like, no hate, no judgment, or whatever the heck.
Yeah.
So I went to her like, what do you think on it? And she went like, yeah, well, I raised my family Christian, and I want to preserve the rest day, the day of rest.
Sabbath.
That's the one. I want to preserve the Sabbath like it was intended. I don't want my kids to feel like they are obligated to work on a Sunday because.
But the thing is, there's a sorry to interrupt, but there's like in this country anyway, if you put down on a form that you're Christian, you can then put like in open brackets somewhere, and I won't work Sunday because of this reason.
Yeah.
Like, because Muslims can do it too, like, and Jews and whatever. Like,
Yeah.
if you're Jewish, you can say, yeah, I won't work the Sabbath, which is like Friday night and all day Saturday, I think, if I remember correctly. So it's not like we're getting rid of her right to have that that thing. We're just getting rid of it for everyone else.
Yeah, that's why I said to her as well. Like, I understand what you mean, like that you don't want your kids to work on Sunday, but like an employer can't force you to work on a certain day. They just can't do that. It doesn't work like that. They can't force your kid to work a Sunday if they don't want to do that. But like on the other hand, what if your kid does decide that it wants to work on Sunday? Because working Sundays always means double the pay for the work you do. Like, I can understand if your kid would say, like, yeah, well, it might be a Sabbath, but money, like, I can't survive on prayer alone, so to speak.
I mean, you can, but yeah, carry on.
Well, you need food and that kind of thing. So like, I can understand maybe your kid saying in the future, like, yeah, okay, it might be a Sabbath, but double the pay, ka-ching, I'm going to work on Sunday. Would you not let your kid work on Sunday, or
shock horror if he grows up to not be a Christian.
Yeah. So we had this entire discussion about it because, it was an open discussion, there was no judgment whatsoever. But it is interesting to see different points of view.